Welcome back, movie lovers. I'm Josh.
I'm Chris.
And with our powers combined, we are
Garner Brothers Movie Lovers.
We're back, and we're better than ever. Something we've always found to be extremely important in movies and overlooked in almost every movie review channel is the music behind the movies. Chris is the biggest movie music nerd in all of the land.
I love movie music so much. In my mind, movie music is supposed to assist the viewer to experience something. I want it to be the kind of thing that you can listen to away from the film and really enjoy, and the kind of thing that just really elevates the experience for you. And so these are just my favorite scores for film and television that came out in 2023.
So, buckle up or something. Number 10.
All right. So, my 10th favorite score from last year is from a Polish film. The English title is Little Rose 2. It's a Polish film about a female politician in Poland whose husband's killed in a terrorist attack, and then she's blackmailed. I haven't seen the film. It is scored by a Polish composer named Bartosz Chajdecki, who is excellent. And I don't get to interact with composers in real life very often, but this guy and I have actually exchanged emails quite a few times, and he seems like a really nice guy.
What?
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. He's a super cool guy. He's got a really cool female vocal aria going on in the first and last tracks. The second track I want to play a piece of for you. I'm sure it's pronounced Przezlosk. My Polish is excellent.
Perfect.
It introduces a really nice theme that's pretty stately and hopeful. Doesn't give you any kind of indication for what's coming up, because a lot of this score is dark. Although even when it's dark, it's still pretty. You can find this score on YouTube, on Spotify, I'm sure it's on Apple Music. I recommend buying the music that you love because I want to support the artists. Also, I do want to say at the outset here, I am not trying to break copyright laws by sharing any of this music or anything. All I'm trying to do is shine a spotlight on some music that I think people haven't heard in hopes that they will go find it legally. I'm sure no bots that find copyright stuff understand the words that are coming out of my mouth right now, but if you're a studio and you want to shut us down because I'm sharing these clips, I hope you understand. This is free advertising. I'm just trying to help people understand this is great music and help them find it. Anyway, the sixth track is another highlight for me, which may or may not be pronounced Wozpomnienie. And this is one of those with the darker tone, but still really pretty.
The piano-violin combination.
Right? That rolling piano is so cool.
The violins are just smoothing it all out with their long strokes.
Yep.
Woo.
And that piano really gets going at the end of that track. That track is a slow build. It's awesome. I really like the score. I love Bartosz Chajdecki's music. I think he's great. My number 9 favorite score of the year is from another Polish film.
Really?
Yes, it's crazy. Polish music is good, okay? They put good music in their movies. The film is called Forgotten Love. It's a remake of a beloved Polish film from 1982. It's about a guy between World War I and II who travels from town to town in Poland, helping people get well from being ill. And he has no medical training, but he seems to be like miraculously making people better. The musical score is by Paweł Lusewicz. Is maybe how you say his name. It's lovely from start to finish. There's a lot of big orchestral beauty here. There's some traditional Polish folk songs throughout, which is interesting. I'd never heard like traditional Polish folk singing before. It's got a very distinct sound. It's pretty striking. My guess is you'll either really like it or really not like it, but it's interesting. There's a few tracks like that. If you don't like those tracks, you can program them out because the rest of it is just pure orchestra. My favorite tracks, there's a track called Who Are You? There's a track called Where Is Mauricia? And there's a track called Finale. Those are my favorite tracks, but there's a lot of good tracks on here. All right, my number 8 is a French TV film made for television comedy called L'Attaque des Déchets, which translates roughly to The Attack of the Living Garbage. Okay. The film score is by Stefan W. Lopez, and And he sounds exactly like John Williams in this score.
Whoa,
Like, exactly.
That is quite a compliment.
It is shocking. Technically, this was released on television in France at the very, very end of 2022. But I wanted to include it because the score wasn't available until 2023 anyway. This French TV movie is about an end-of-the-world scenario where garbage comes alive and starts to attack humanity. It looks like the film is about 3 garbage collectors who have to try and save the world from the now sentient garbage.
I want to see this movie
I know.
so bad.
I know. It's really low budget. The images of the garbage attacking people, it's like a bag floating in the wind that lands on someone's face, and then they start freaking out because there's a bag on their face.
That is exactly what
really
I
bad.
wanted this to look like.
Okay, well, I'm not sure how you can watch it, but it might be out there somewhere.
Are the French really funny? Maybe?
I don't know. I don't know. This movie sounds funny. It looks cheap, but the music does not sound cheap. And like I said, it sounds exactly like John Williams. If you told me this was a Williams score from the 80s and 90s, and I didn't know John Williams' filmography well enough, I would believe you. It really sounds like him so much. I think funny movies are especially funny when the composer scores them like they're the most important movie ever made.
Nice.
And that's what you get here. Every track would make you believe that there is a truly epic battle between good and garbage going on. Thing starts out with a waltz. The track is called Waltz for a Garbage Truck, and it sounds like it could have been from Harry Potter. It's kind of dark and lilty. There's a huge piece of music in the middle called The Heroics of Roxanne and Philippe. The beginning of this track is not my kind of thing. Toward the end of the piece, it gets really big and grand and awesome.
That is straight from E.T. That's
Right?
E.T.
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
That's
Exactly.
wild.
I also really liked the 17th track, which is a concert suite of themes from the film. If you're up for a John Williams-style adventure score about saving the world from garbage, this is it.
I'm looking at this picture, and I already see the American version. We got Jonah Hill. We can put in the bicycle helmet at the bottom. We got Bryce Dallas Howard in the other bicycle helmet. I'm still trying to place the main character at the top.
You can put Dev Patel in there, I think.
That's
He can
just
do it.
fine. Like this is ever going to happen.
Right. It will not.
Can I ask you how in the world you happen to find music from Poland and France? How does this end up on your radar at all?
I'm a part of like Movie Music UK's Facebook group and Film Track's Facebook group, and people go on and they share. I don't know how they find it, but like I always discover it from these other people online. My 7th favorite score of the year, 2023, is an actual John Williams score for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Oh, yes.
Almost any year that John Williams writes a score, it's going to be in my top 10. He's just that good. And also, his whole sound just makes me happy. John Williams is the composer of my childhood. I grew up on Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Hook and E.T. and Jurassic Park. His musical voice is one that is forever linked to good cinematic experiences for me. So hearing new music from Williams, especially for Indiana Jones, was just so nostalgically wonderful for me. And at age 92, he just had a birthday.
Oh.
We can't take a single new Williams score for granted.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows how many more of these we're going to get, if any at all. The highlights of this score are spectacular. There is a big new theme for a character that I really didn't even care for in the film, and that's Helena. Her theme is gorgeous. It's very old school, lovely, swoony, romantic, and Williams peppers it all throughout the score. It gives us 2 excellent concert arrangements of it. The other highlight for me came from New York 1969. This is what happens immediately after Indiana Jones wakes up, having just time traveled. It features Marion's theme from Raiders of the Lost Ark. If you listen to a Williams theme for a franchise before you see the film, it can kind of spoil the movie for you a little bit. I knew Marion was going to be in this movie because of this track. That New York track ends with the big Raiders march and Indiana Jones's theme, and it plays into the credits, and it was just the happiest I was in cinemas this year, sitting in the theater listening to Indy's theme as the credits rolled. It was so wonderful. So that's my number 7.
I had a thought about Harrison Ford. Do you think Harrison Ford is our generation's John Wayne? Dad loved John Wayne.
Yeah.
And he tried to show us John Wayne movies, and we were all like, yeah, he's kind of good, I guess. And I kind of feel like that's how my kids feel when I try to show them Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
My kids are like, yeah, Dad, that's pretty cool, I guess. I'm like, are you sure that this isn't the coolest thing you've ever seen? Because I'm pretty sure it is.
I introduced my kids to Indiana Jones in the last year, and they enjoyed it quite a bit.
Oh, good.
I love Indiana Jones. It's just the best.
I think my kids might be too young, maybe, is all.
Yeah. All right. So, my number 6 favorite film score of the year comes from another Netflix original. This is actually a Japanese film. It's a romantic comedy murder mystery set on a cruise ship, and it is bad. But the music is not. The music is by Takatsugu Muramatsu. The film is called In Love and Deep Water. It starts with a theme that's supposed to represent sirens in the ocean. It sounds super Harry Potter to me. It sounds like it's boys' choir. It's kind of mischievous. That's not necessarily what the rest of the score is like. There's lots of different kinds of music in this score. There's a fun theme for the cruise ship itself. There's a love theme for the two main characters and a track called Maybe in Love. It's just a really solid score. I enjoyed it a lot. Don't watch the film, but the music is great. Number 5 is for another Netflix original, Life on Our Planet. This is a series produced by Steven Spielberg, narrated by Morgan Freeman, that attempts to tell the story of how life has evolved on planet Earth over the last 4 billion years. This score is by Lorne Balfe. He is a Scottish composer that has worked with Hans Zimmer his whole career. And this sounds just like you would expect a big spectacle nature documentary to sound if it were scored by somebody in the kind of Hans Zimmer style. By the way, Lorne Balfe had an amazing year in 2023, maybe better than any other composer. This year, he composed the score for this documentary series, the second season of The Wheel of Time, Gran Turismo, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, Ghosted, Tetris, Luther the Fallen Sun, and another film that's higher up on my list. The guy just wrote a ton of music. I don't know how he did it.
Last year he wrote the music for the best movie of the year, Black Adam.
Yeah, he does everything. The guy is just money. And the last few years, I think his work has really gotten a lot better. There's a bunch of albums out for this score. I think there's an album out for each episode or something like that. I would just recommend the album that is titled Life on Our Planet. This is the first album they put out, and it has all the biggest moments from all the other albums. My favorite track is The Power of the Planet. It's big, it's epic, it's sweeping, it's pretty great. Just track after track of big, beautiful music.
Wow. Magnificent.
Each track is its own thing. There's no like thematic identity that moves through the entire series. And every time I listen to it, it just goes up higher on my list. If I were to listen to all these again, it might rank higher than number 5. My 4th favorite score from last year is to an animated short film called Taliqua the Whale, Dance of Grief. It tells the true story. There was a killer whale whose baby died shortly after being born, and this orca carried her dead calf for like 1,000 miles on her back. It was a sad story, and everyone was kind of amazed by watching an animal so clearly in mourning. The score you might think is just going to be sad because of the subject matter of the film, but it's really not. It's actually really pretty, just full of really dreamy sounding strings. There are some sad moments for sure. Even the sad moments are still pretty. The score is written by composer Lolita Ritmanis. What she wrote for it is really lovely. Number 3. This film is called Mushka. It's an animated short film. It played at some film festivals. I think it actually won some awards, but I don't think it's had an official release on any streaming service. But it is created by an animation legend. His name is Andreas Deja. He worked for Disney for 30 years. He was the lead animator on King Triton, Scar, on Jafar, Hercules. And he's animated this film in the style of 101 Dalmatians or The Jungle Book. The film, it's about a little girl who befriends a tiger in the USSR in the 1970s. And it grows up into a full-blown tiger that people in town want to kill for money. The Russian influence is all over this score. The main highlight from this is a lullaby, Mushka's lullaby. And I don't know if you know this, but Russia's kind of famous for their lullabies. And this one, it just sounds totally like a classic Russian lullaby. You could be forgiven for thinking that Russians have been singing this to their kids for 150 years. I mean, it sounds just so authentic.
The song Once Upon a December.
Yes.
Anastasia. Does that feel like an authentic Russian lullaby?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought this film was Russian, composed by a Russian guy, but the lullaby's in English. Turns out, Deja managed to convince none other than the legendary Richard M. Sherman of the Sherman Brothers to write this lullaby. The Sherman Brothers, if you don't know, have written more songs for movies than anyone else ever in the history of film. They wrote the songs for Mary Poppins, The Jungle Book, Winnie the Pooh, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and like 50 other movies. These guys are absolute legends. Richard Sherman is still alive. He's 95 years old, and he's still writing songs for films. He came in and wrote this lullaby, and it is gorgeous. The melody is gorgeous, the words are gorgeous, and the vocal performance is awesome. It's sung by Holly Cedillos, and her performance is delicate and fragile, just like a mom who's singing a lullaby to a kid that's, hoping that the child will fall asleep. The composer for the film is Fabrizio Mancinelli, and he arranged the lullaby and incorporates it into the score. Mancinelli wrote his own themes for the film. One of the best places to find his themes is in the track Grandma Needs Me. The last 5 tracks are just some of the most lovely music I've heard lately. Gorgeous stuff. Sounds really cool.
I will say, man, Russians have got some very, I don't know if emotional is the right word, music, but there's some real passion behind that music. Anytime there's a movie with Russians, Hunt for Red October, Crimson Tide, The Man Who Knew Too Little.
The dancing at the end.
Maybe that's not quite as passionate as I was putting on, but
I wish some streaming service would license this so we could watch it, because I really want to see it.
Me too. It sounds really interesting.
Okay, number 2. My number 2 favorite score. I shouldn't say it's my second favorite score, because it's actually my favorite score from last year. And you'll see why number 1 is number 1 here in a minute. But the film is Dungeons and Dragons, and the score is by Lorne Balfe again. His score for Dungeons and Dragons is great. It works great in the film. We both noticed it when we were seeing it in theaters. It sounds fantastic. It's just what you want. The original album is like an hour and a half long, and there's just too much music there. You could edit it down and have a really nice listening experience, but as the album is presented, it's not my favorite thing. But he released a couple of albums after the original album. One of those albums is called The Dungeon Master's Jukebox. All the themes from the film get their best version on this album.
The Dungeon Master's Jukebox. That's such an awesome name.
Right? And for that album, he took each of the themes he wrote for those characters in the film and he gave it a concert arrangement. It starts with my favorite theme on the album, the theme for the barbarian woman, Holga Kilgore. It's got a great melody, and as presented here on the first track of this album, it's just so fun. It's very Scottish. I think there's an accordion going crazy underneath. It might be my favorite piece of music from last year. I love it so much. It's so big. It's so awesome. It's so fun. It's just like rhythmically infectious. I love it. I love it. There are themes here for Edgin and Zank and Doric. The main theme, there's a theme for the Red Wizard. There's a theme for Kira. All the themes are solid. It's a very enjoyable album. Has a big fantasy sound to it that's really enjoyable. The last track is another variation on Holga's theme, presented in a very different way. Very cool arrangement. Love the big choir, and it's a lot slower in arrangement. Anyway, so that's my favorite film music for a film that came out in 2023. It's a little bit cheating because it's not the official score release, but I'm just so glad he did this.
Yeah.
These themes are amazing. They sound incredible.
When you explained that he did this, I just thought, why doesn't every composer do this?
Right? They don't.
Why don't they just make their own album of their favorite stuff from the movie? Even if they don't rewrite arrangements, what if they just cut out all the fat of the stuff that, isn't the best?
That's what a lot of them used to do. These days, the idea is release as much of the music as possible, because there's always somebody who says, well, why isn't the track from that scene in there? And, so put it all in there, and then people can just fish through it and find all the stuff they like.
Yeah, but then then there needs to be like a director's cut that it just has the good stuff.
That's actually shorter. Yeah. It's incredible to me that Lorne Balfe took the time to do this in a year when he scored 8 things, that he would take his music from one of those things and give it a total extra album with just the themes presented in the coolest way possible. It's amazing. I'm so glad he did it.
Good on him.
Yeah. My number one favorite film music album of 2023 is called Night After Night. It is not to a film that came out in 2023, so this is totally cheating. But it's a new film music album that features reimaginings and expansions of James Newton Howard's music for the films of M. Night Shyamalan. So, if you're unaware, some of the best film music to be composed in the last quarter century was composed by James Newton Howard for M. Night Shyamalan's films. They started working together on The Sixth Sense. I think the last thing they worked together on was After Earth. During the pandemic, James Newton Howard found himself with some extra time and decided to put together this album. The music has been re-recorded and rearranged into concert suites that are not bound by images on a screen. So it's kind of the same thing we were just talking about. It's an album where he takes his, some of his favorite pieces that he wrote and rearranges them in a way he wanted to put together an album that had a really meditative listening experience. He said he wanted to cut out all of the scary, the stingers, all the stuff that makes music less enjoyable to listen to away from the film, and just craft an album of really nice music to listen to. This amazing music has just never been presented better for a listening experience away from the film. It's excellent.
Wow, that is so crazy. What a crazy, awesome thing that happened.
Right?
And he didn't decide to call this the Crypt Keeper's Jukebox?
Nope. So there's also some amazing piano added to almost every track, some of which never had piano in them originally, but he's kept all the orchestra, but it's all played by famous pianist Jean-Yves Thibaudet, who's just excellent, because he didn't want some of the more dissonant moments from his scores to be in this album, because he wanted it to be a smooth listening experience. Those huge moments that I totally love are not here.
Because they're not as meditative as he wanted it to be.
Yeah, the most beautiful tracks are here, and it is an incredible album. It starts off with 3 tracks from Signs, which is probably objectively the best score that Howard wrote for Shyamalan. The way he uses the 3 notes that keep repeating all through the score to represent the aliens is just brilliant. I don't actually love his choice to start this album with the first 2 tracks from Signs, though. They're not terribly interesting. It's a little bit of a dull way to start this album. I wish he had just started it with the 3rd track. Don't start with those 2 tracks. Start with track 3, which is called The Hand of Fate, and it's the music that plays at the very end of Signs, when Mel Gibson's cradling his son out on the yard, and I love that movie. I love it so much.
It is so good.
So, we go from there to his music from The Village, which is my favorite score that Howard wrote for a Shyamalan film. All the tracks from The Village are amazing, and these tracks sound perfect because he got Hilary Hahn, the violinist who played on the original score, to come back and play again for this album.
Can you imagine? Or you were the pianist who got to be added to all this? You're the sole pianist with all this going on around you? Jeez, this would be the coolest
so
thing
great.
Ever. Holy
Yeah,
cow.
yeah. Lovely stuff. Just gorgeous solo violin throughout. The next 3 tracks are all from The Sixth Sense, and they're all very nice. And then there are 4 tracks from Lady in the Water. All of them are great. My favorite is the last one, which is called on this album, Return to the Blue World. From there, you get a couple tracks from Unbreakable. My favorite moment of piano being added to a piece that didn't used to have piano comes from this track called Destiny. On the original track, it was called The Orange Man.
Who's the Orange Man? Because Bruce Willis is the green guy.
Yeah, but he's fighting the Orange Man.
I thought that the purple guy was Samuel Jackson.
Right, but when he goes...
The Orange Man is the guy in the house?
Yes, he's wearing an orange jumpsuit.
Oh, my mind just immediately goes to Donald Trump. He's fighting the Orange Man, and I'm thinking, I don't remember that. I don't remember him in that movie.
It wasn't Trump. So, listen to the piano here. It was not, originally, there was no piano in this track, and I already loved it, but the addition of the piano just sold it for me. There's a couple of pieces from The Last Airbender on there, very toned down version of the incredible theme from the track Flow Like Water, which is one of James Newton Howard's best compositions ever.
Yeah, The Last Airbender is probably going to go down in history as the best music in a movie that was so bad.
There's actually an illustrious history of wonderful music written for terrible films, and that is an excellent example. My one gripe about this album, he includes 3 tracks from The Happening here. I've never been a big fan of The Happening.
What? No.
These tracks feel darker and scarier than all the other stuff on this album, so I think it kind of messes up that kind of meditative flow that he was going for. Even so, Maya Beiser's cello performance on those tracks is really impressive. But then the last 2 tracks, one is from After Earth, and then there's a solo piano arrangement of Flow Like Water. Both are lovely. This is a stellar album. It's my favorite film music album released in this decade.
Whoa.
It is awesome.
I mean, obviously, but
yeah.
Whoa!
It's amazing. Everybody needs to hear it. It's a total cheat to put it number 1 on my scores of 2023, but it is a new album with reimaginings presented in a way nobody's ever heard it before. So it's my number 1 film music related album from 2023.
Ugh, do you think they'll ever work together again?
I don't know. I wondered actually if this album was James Newton Howard's way of saying to Shyamalan, bring me back, man. We had a good thing going.
Yeah, maybe. I hope so, because they were really a pretty incredible combination, those two.
It's phenomenal stuff. And even when Shyamalan's films got really bad, at least we could count on there being an amazing album from James Newton Howard. And the fact that he didn't bring him back for Glass just blew my mind.
Yeah,
I was so sad. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened. There may have been a falling out between them after Earth. I've heard some stuff that went down. And maybe it's just Shyamalan's films got so bad that people wouldn't give him a budget anymore, and so he couldn't afford James Newton Howard. I don't know what the deal is. I hope they work together again. I would love that.
Do you know anything about the Best Original Score category nominations for the Oscars?
I've heard the list. Frequently, the kinds of films that get nominated for Best Score are the kinds of films that are getting nominated for Best Picture and Best Director and Best Actor and stuff. Like, they just throw the ones in also that have some kind of musical interest as well.
That seems dumb. If you're supposed to be doing it solely based on the music.
Yes, I agree. But I'm not a part of the Academy, so I don't get to make that decision.
Well, then they're dumb. And we're better.
Indeed.
Our list is better.
Well, I think it is.
Congratulations, Lorne Balfe. You have won the more prestigious award of Best Song Written in 2023 from a movie that came out in 2023.
Best Score.
Best Score from a movie. Well, you know, good job. You won the thing. And so did you, James Newton Howard. You both won the thing somehow.
It's the Garner Brothers Movie Lovers' inaugural Best Film Score of the Year award.
It's better than those dumb ones they gave.
Those dumb little golden statues.
Yeah.
Who cares about that?
We'll mail you ours later. I'll have David design it since he designed our March Madness trophy.
It'll be pink and terrible.
I'll have an Angel Moroni on the top, playing a trumpet. Okay, well, wow, what a great list. I'm excited to add these all to my playlist. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check them all out, add them to your playlists, and maybe you'll become a soundtrack nerd like us. And we'll catch you next time, guys.
Pew, pew, pew.
We're doing a review. No, we're not. Well, we are. We're doing 1,000 reviews of music. We're doing music reviews. Chris is doing music reviews. This is the worst intro I've ever had.